Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this video. This is a follow-up video to the one previously made called Marthe Paranormal. The purpose of this video is to tell you of some developments. It is today the 13th of November at 5 minutes to 8. And first of all, you will recall that Marthe was requested to leave me alone for a month, and that was on the 12th of October. So yesterday was the deadline for her coming back. And I expected Marthe to come back in a dream last night, but there was no dream. Marthe didn't appear. For the last few days, I've been walking around the house, checking with the K2 meter, and I've not had any signal. There's been no noises, no disturbances, and all the feelings I had of fear and apprehension are gone. I can now walk into the kitchen in the dark and not feel that sensation I had before. So Marthe is not here. She might have just gone for a while, and she might return because perhaps spirits don't have a sense of time and don't stick to appointments. Maybe we'll hear more from her. You'll recall that I'm speaking quite well, aren't I? Normally the stroke gets in the way. But, oh, by the way, you'll notice I'm wearing the same top I did in the last video. It has been washed and cleaned, but it's just a coincidence that it happens to be the same top. What was I going to say? Oh, yes, I'm sorry for digressing. I apologize. Right, okay, Marthe gave me two jobs. And the first one was to get married to her former mother. And the second job was to rescue her burial site from being disturbed. Okay, let's take these one at a time. As far as the request for the woman that used to be her mother, this is a woman called Zelma Nancy. She lives in Lima in Peru, and we've become very close friends. Nancy contacted me, convinced that she was Bart's mother. She went through the same feelings that I had, the loss and bereavement and the grief and the tears and the crying. She had all that, and she didn't know why. Once she'd seen that photograph, why it affected her that way, exactly the same thing happened to me. So Zelma and Zelma asked me if we could arrange a marriage that would satisfy Marthe's request. And so she's taken the lead on this. She's gone around and spoke to some priests. And unfortunately, none of the priests are prepared to marry Hector and Mathilde. So we hit a little snag there. I spoke to some friends and some family members, and we decided, well, if it was acceptable, that if it was just a matter of Hector and Mathilde getting married, we could do that through another denomination that allowed this marriage to take place. And I thought about my own faith, right? Now, I might not look like a Sikh, but I'm a Sikh in my heart. I don't have the appearance of a Sikh because at the moment I don't feel that I'm good enough, that I'm worthy of such a tremendously fantastic, great religion. I want to be a part of it, but I don't consider myself good enough at the moment. I want to be baptized, and I will one day be baptized and become a Sikh, hopefully before I die. So let me explain how it would happen if it was to go through the Sikh faith. Now, in Sikhism, the bride and the groom don't have to say anything, so there's no vows. 4 prayers are read, 4 stanzas of something called the Anand, which is the marriage ceremony, in the presence of the Holy Book, the Holy Sri Guru Granth Sahib. And you're married. And that is legally accepted. That's the first point. The second point is that the parties can be there by proxy. Now that means that the people getting married, don't have to be there. When my son got engaged, my eldest son, excuse me, his fiancée was in India. And what they did was they took a photograph of him and put it next to her. And the engagement ceremony went ahead. It was officially recognized. So he was there by proxy. So the idea was that if we could get a photo of Hector and Mathilde, which we've got photographs of the two of them, we could have an Anand ceremony and they would be married within the eyes of God as husband and wife. If you remember, Marthe wanted her parents to remarry because they divorced. And it wasn't 1898, it was 1894 that they got divorced. Now, the third thing about the Sikh ceremony is that Sikhism has got no priest. Every single Sikh is a priest into himself or herself. So any Sikh can conduct the ceremony. So he doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to ask my brother if he will do it. If he refuses, and he has every right to, because the whole thing just sounds outrageous, then I'll have to conduct it. But we'll see what happens. So we've hit a snag, but there might be a way out. Right. Well, the good news about the second request that Marthe made about protecting her burial site is that for some reason, I've heard news that for some reason, Park 22 is no longer going to be exhumed. So therefore, the graves of Marthe and Emily, and even the grandmother, who's also in Park 22, are safe. Now, there was an injunction on that field, right, which prevented them from disturbing the graves in Park 22. The injunction, unfortunately, covered the whole park and not just these graves. So there were 2,000 people buried in Park 22. So they've all been affected and they're all safe. No one's going to dig them up and throw them away. Right, I've lost my train of thought. This is one of the side effects of having had a stroke. Your train of thought suddenly goes and you don't know what to say. So I apologize for that, because I know that how frustrating that can be. We were talking about Park 22, we were talking about the graves. Yes, well, it means that I don't have to spend £12,000 to get these very expensive coffins. And we were planning a very elaborate funeral, which would have cost a lot of money. So the expensive part of Marthe's request seems to have succeeded. Oh yes, I remember what I was going to say. Right, the reason why the plans for Park 22 have been quashed. Now this could be very interesting, because I don't believe that the cemetery, who were so anxious to get this injunction lifted, have done this out of the goodness of their hearts. I was expecting that what would happen after all these years of that injunction being in place, that the cemetery would go back to court, take the injunction matter back to court and say, look, it's been several years and this guy's done nothing. So we want the injunction lifted, and we want, to reuse the burial ground and release all the money that would be there for selling the new pits, for recent, burials. So they might have taken the matter back to court and been refused. But for whatever reason, they've decided that they're not going to exhume the bodies in Park 22. So the graves of our two little girls are safe. Another thing might have been that they've decided not to pursue the plan for Park 22, and they've decided to exhume some other field. There are 40 parks. So they might have taken the whole project somewhere else. If that's the case, Park 22 might be exhumed at some time in the future, but at least not in my lifetime. Okay, so I can't tell Marthe this because she didn't come last night and there was no communication, but I think it's pretty good news. Right. Now, the other thing I would mention is that since I published the book, I've mentioned the book. The book was called Marthe, the Unknown Child in the Very Old Victorian Photograph. That's the title of the book. It was printed, published, I don't know, I think it was 2014, 2015. I'm not sure. But it sold well. It sold in Europe. It was in English. And a lot of people have asked me for copies. But I contacted the publishers and the book is no longer in print. So unfortunately, you can't go to a bookstore and buy it because there are no copies in print. And the publishers feel that they've already made as much money as they can out of the sale of the book. So they're not willing to do a second run unless, it's a run for thousands of copies. So I think that avenue is closed and we can't expect those publishers to republish the book so that people can read the story of Marthe, particularly as I've now announced where I got the information from, which turns the story into a sort of a paranormal mystery. A lot of people have asked for the book. The book is not available, and I found the original manuscript on an old stick. So I've still got the book. And I have the copyright to the book. I didn't sign the copyright away. So I still own the work itself. And I can have it republished. A friend of mine was visiting last year and he suggested, he saw the book and took an interest in it because it was written by, a very good friend of his. And he loved it. And he said, you know what, brother, you should publish this in India. India is a very spiritual country and the book will do very well there and spread Marthe's story so more people will know about Marthe, which is the purpose of writing the book. It wasn't the money at all. In fact, as you know, I didn't make a single penny on Marthe's book. Some of my friends wondered why I did that. Well, the reason is that I didn't think it was ethical or correct to profit on my deceased daughter if I was her father. And others said, well, you spent a lot of money looking for Marthe, searching for Marthe, the airfares, the hotel bills, the buses, the transport, the excursions, the expeditions, and all the time that you could have spent working and earning money, you put towards the research. So it's cost you a lot of money. I would imagine in excess of £10,000. So at least, grab that from the proceeds of the book. But I didn't even feel I could do that. I let it go. So I bore the expense of all that research from my own pocket. And I didn't get it back. And that didn't seem to worry me. So to all you skeptics out there, when you try to scam people, I would imagine that it's about money. So make note of the fact that I didn't do this for money. Money wasn't a part of it. In fact, it cost me a lot to do the research and to find Marthe. So there was something else that made me do it. And I'll tell you what that is. It was love. Now, Marthe died, and her parents died, and her love seemed to be so strong that after her death, she came back looking for her parents. And her parents were important to her, and she tried to communicate with them. And she did that out of love. In my conversations with the spirit, there was no animosity, no anger. I didn't fear her. There was only love. And it was very clear that she had a lot of affection for me. So the things that happened, the thumps and the singing and the screams, they were just pranks. Now I try to analyze that. So I thought to myself, is there a message there? Well, I heard 3 thumps, right? And the only thing I could come up with was maybe she fell down 3 steps when she had the stroke. And maybe that's why there were 3 thumps. I don't know. And the singing, well, perhaps that was her mother singing to her when she was alive. And the scream, and the only thing that I could associate with that was that I had some kind of memory that the scream was Mathilde. It was her mother screaming. The scream came from her mother. Because Mathilde had lost one baby already, and now she had lost another. So she had a kind of a breakdown, I remember, and she would go berserk, have a tantrum, and she would scream. And this scared little Helene, the living daughter, the surviving daughter, scared her very much. And it came to a point where Hector decided that the mother had to go. And that's possibly why those disturbances happened. They were just fragments of the past. Or they could have been pranks, spirits, but apparently played pranks. And it may just have been pranks to get my attention or whatever. Right, now, talking about the book and having found the original manuscript, excuse me, and having an invitation to publish it in India in Hindi is fantastic. Not because of any profit from it, but because a lot more people would get to know Marthe's story, and she would become even better known. And that's the motive behind republishing. Another friend of mine made a very good suggestion that I go to Amazon and ask if they will publish the book. And there's a Kindle version of the book if you would like to read it and find all the facts about Marthe's story from A to Z, because this videos and they don't really cover very much at all. But if you'd like to know the full story and you want to read the book, and for all those out there who are asking for the book, the Kindle version is being published on the 1st of December this year. And also, something that's great, and there's a hardcover version also being printed for the book fans who would prefer to read a book. And the book's been partly rewritten with the benefit of hindsight It's been updated. I worked on it day and night, up to 14 hours, 18 hours a day. I've woken up in the middle of the night and went through it and corrected it and made new new additions. So it's like a second edition of the first book. I think it's much better than the first book because when I wrote the first book, it was a long time ago. We didn't know the full story. There was a kind of a suspicion that I was once Charles Hector Thiry and Marthe's father, but nothing conclusive. This second book, gives that conclusion. Right, there's just one last topic to cover, and that is for the skeptics. Now, let me get this straight. I have not had anyone contact me and criticize in a negative way this Marthe phenomena. I've had no skeptics writing to me, and I'm quite surprised, really, because I expected a lot of criticism. It's such a strange subject, and the claims that I've made have been so outrageous. I expected a barrage of skeptics out there, but not a single one has contacted me. I'm a very honest person. I can truly say that, and I'd like to explain that in a little bit of detail. I don't have the time to go around trying to convince people of something that I know isn't true. I don't have the time for that. That's a total waste of my time, whatever life I've got left, and it serves no purpose. So I'm all for the truth. And there are a few stories behind that I hope would persuade people who might be inclined to think that I'm lying. The first one is that my descent is from a Punjabi Sikh family. There were 6 of us and mum and dad, and we were raised as Punjabi Sikhs. And anyone that knows what a Punjabi Sikh family is like knows that parents disapprove of lying. It's one of the worst things that you can do. If a parent found you lying, it's tantamount to being accused of something like stealing. It's on the same kind of level. So you were always expected to tell the truth, whether that was good or bad, whether that got you into trouble or not. The truth was seen as something that was fundamentally important. In fact, if you told the truth and admitted to doing something that you could expect to be punished for, quite often you weren't punished. That the fact that you told the truth, the removal of punishment was a reward. You did this, you did that, but you've told us the truth, so we're not going to punish you this time. So there was an incentive for telling the truth. We were brought up, raised, and had the truth drilled into us. That's the first thing about me. That's the first indication that I'm somebody who speaks the truth. The second is my faith. Now, my faith is very strong. I don't have the physical appearance of a Sikh. I don't wear a turban, beard, moustache. That's because I've not been baptized. But I'm working hard at being baptized. The reason why I've not been baptized yet is a personal decision by me that I need to be a better person in order to become part of such a great religion. I respect Sikhism, and my heart is full of the faith. It's in my heart. One day I hope to be baptized. Certainly, I want a Sikh funeral. I believe that I need to be baptized before I die so that I can have a Sikh funeral. I want to go away as a fully fledged Sikh. Now, the fact that this is so important to me, that Sikhism is so important to me, also indicates a preference for the truth. Now, the very core of Sikhism, for any of you that know a little about Sikhism, is that Sikhism is fundamentally built on truthfulness. Sab to upar sach hai, upar sach uchar. That is from the holy Sikh scripture, the Guru Granth Sahib. And what that means, right, is that of all things, the highest is truthfulness. And that the foundation of this tremendous faith is built on telling the truth. So that's the second indicator that I'm somebody who tells the truth. The third indicator is my profession. A fully qualified government internal auditor. Now, what an internal auditor does is look for the truth. The auditor, his role is to get at the truth. And that's what I do. I say I do because I still regard myself as an auditor, because auditing to me has become a way of life. That's how I live day to day. I see myself as an auditor. Whatever facts I come across, I check them. Is this right or is this wrong? What people tell me, again, I become the auditor. Is what that person saying correct or is it not correct? So it's built into me, and it's a way of life for me to get to the facts and to be truthful. You know, I'm not somebody that's going to tell you what you want to hear, tell you what I want you to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. I think that's about it. So I apologize for my speech and my chain of thought having been affected by the stroke. I've also don't read from a script, and that sometimes means that you've got to stop and think about what you're going to say. I apologize if that's come across in this video. I don't know if there'll be any more videos, but if you want to know more about Marthe, and I'd like as many people as possible to know about Marthe, please take advantage of the fact that the books are being republished, and that people now have the opportunity to read them. And to those of you who have felt this love from Marthe, I think it would be very nice if you could visit her grave and lay flowers, and that's probably the best possible thing that you could do for her. People die, but love doesn't die. We know that because that's what Marthe has taught us. That love is universal, it's eternal, and it can exist from beyond the grave. And you take it with you, and your death doesn't mean that the love that you had or the love that people had for you has gone. It's still there. Goodbye for now. Have a very nice day or evening or afternoon or night. May God be with you, and thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye. Where I am now, it's morning, so I'm going to say good morning. It's Wednesday, the 24th of November, sometime after I made the video that you've just seen, and it's 10 minutes to 8 in the morning. I just had a few thoughts about the video, and it came across to me that I started off the video pretty fluently in my speech, as I'm doing now, but then it became more and more difficult to speak as the video went along, and I apologize for that. It's because I had a stroke. Well, so far, nothing has appeared. There's been no dreams, no activity from the K2 meter, and no bumps, no noises, and no feelings of apprehension. So I'm not sure if Marthe has gone. It seems that she is aware of what's happening, so perhaps she's satisfied that Zelma and I will find a way to marry Hector and Mathilde, and that the field is now safe, so maybe she already knows it, and that's all she needed, so she's disappeared. But she didn't say goodbye. And if I was her father, I'd find that a bit disappointing. Something did happen yesterday, in fact, and it happens to all of us at some time, but there were some strange things around this. One of the things that Marthe always did from the beginning, from 12 years ago, was that she would come and displace things so you couldn't find them. So you'd look for something that you knew you put in a certain place, that perhaps always was there, and then suddenly find what you were looking for missing. And you would go all over the place and look, and where did I put it, and think, well, I'm being forgetful, I lay things around. And then after a while, you'd go back and you'd see what it was that you were looking for, exactly where it should have been. Now, keys are a favorite, right? Now, I lock the front door to my home, and there's a little sill by the window where I would put the key. So you can see the key on the window ledge, and there it is, where if you need to open the door, the keys are there, and you can open the door, right, whatever you want. And a number of times, I went there, the keys are not there. Now, hardly anybody visits, because this is a very small village, very elderly population. You meet people when you go to the coffee shop and you chat. People don't come to the house. Mainly because most of the neighbors that I have, and they're all wonderful Bulgarian people, they're elderly, they're infirm, and I live in a part of the house that has these steps going up to the upper flat, and they can't manage the steps, so I don't get many visitors. If there's a parcel delivery, because I have dogs, there's a bell on the main gate, and they ring the bell from the outside, and I would go down and open the gate, go outside the gate to collect the parcel or talk or whatever. Right. So the keys, nobody comes into the house, no one's taken the keys, right? Not even the dogs come into the house, so they couldn't have picked the keys up and put them somewhere and then mysteriously put them back, right? So yesterday, I lost my phone. Now, we all know what it's like when you lose a mobile phone. You've got your banking app on it, you've got your Facebook, you've got your Messenger, personal information, your photographs. Almost your entire life is on your phone. So if you can't find your phone, you panic. Now, my coat has got a zip pocket. So I put the phone in, and a number of times it's fallen out in the car, and you've had a little bit of an emergency. So yesterday, I thought, I'm going to put the phone right in the pocket and zip it up. Right. Now, the phone can't fall out. And I went all the way to the city and back did my shopping, stopped at various places, and I didn't use my phone, and it didn't ring. And when I got back home, and I took my jacket off and put the kettle on, I always take the phone out and throw it on the bed. So, the phone's on the bed and the jacket's hanging up. You don't want to leave the phone inside the jacket because you'll need the phone, right? And guess what? The phone wasn't in the pocket. And I couldn't understand this. I thought, what the hell? How did the phone fall out of a zip pocket? The pocket wasn't torn, but the phone's gone. So it must have fallen down somewhere. And as tired as I was, because I am elderly, I suffer from severe arthritis, high blood pressure, diabetes, and all sorts of problems. And it's a big thing for me to go all the way to the city and back. That's a journey of about 40 miles. So it's a lot. It takes a lot out of me. And it was dinner time. Being diabetic, I had to eat. But I was so worried about the phone. I got into the car, not the same car, because unfortunately at the moment I've got two cars. The old one, which I'm trying to sell, which is the one I was using when I lost the phone. But I've got my Jeep. So I drive one car and then I drive the other car to keep them running. Because quite often if you don't use the car, the battery goes flat. So I jumped into the Jeep, drove all the way back to the city, went to every shop I'd visited, the supermarket, asked if anybody had found a phone, and nobody had. Drove all the way back, absolutely worried. I couldn't contact Sky Mobile to ask them what to do, and I didn't know if I was getting messages, who was worried about me, because, family and friends, they phone, they're not getting an answer, they know I'm old, they know that I live alone. Naturally, they would get very worried. So I had no way of contacting them and alleviating their fears. And this worried me. And then the car alarm went off. This is the car, not the Jeep. The car that I was driving. And obviously, I'd searched the car. I searched it twice looking for the phone. And I also, I had a number of old phones with no SIM cards in, but I used the messenger to ring my phone. And there was nothing ringing, right? And I'm up here, worried sick. It's now been 3 or 4 hours. And I heard the car alarm go off. The car's beeping and the lights flashing. And sometimes, a car will drive past, very rarely, because this is a very quiet village and there's hardly any traffic. But the car alarm was going off. So I thought, well, maybe a dog had knocked it or something. And went downstairs, reset the alarm, came back upstairs. And after a while, the car alarm went off again. And I thought, well, that's odd. Maybe there's something wrong with the electrics. It's an old car. And the car did sometimes in the past used to go off for no reason, because it would be raining and the water would get in and do something to the electrics. But there was no rain. So that wasn't why the car alarm was going. And that happened again, 3 times. So I thought, in my head, if the phone was in the car, maybe the radio signals are setting the car alarm off. And I went back to the car, and there was the phone. It was behind the passenger seat on the floor. And I was so relieved at finding my phone that I kissed it. And I thought, Roger, you're stupid. You should look after this phone much, much better than you've done. And then I came back and I'm sitting and I'm thinking and I'm saying, how the hell did the phone get from a zip pocket to behind the passenger seat of the car? And how the hell did I not see it when I searched the car twice? And a friend of mine on Facebook, because I immediately went onto Facebook and posted the fact that I'd lost my phone, had found it, and she knows about this Marthe story, and she said, maybe it's the ghostie. Maybe she did it. And then she set off the car alarm to tell you where it was. Now, what answer can I give? I can't say, oh, no, it fell out of my... I haven't been in the back of the car. I'm the driver. I'm driving. It's an English car. I'm sitting in the front right-hand seat, right? And I haven't unzipped my coat. I don't answer the phone when I'm driving, so there's no reason for me to. I keep my wallet in my trouser pocket, and so it's not in my jacket, so I haven't undone that pocket for any reason. And so I said, well, I don't know, but perhaps you're right. Now, sometimes perfectly normal things happen, and people interpret them as, fantastic paranormal events. But I'm a skeptic, and part of me is still a skeptic. I'm very careful, about what I believe. Right. So, obviously, we all use the car seat at some time. So there I am in the car seat, and I'm sorry if this is delicate. And I noticed that the toilet roll hanging from the holder was like that, defying gravity, right? And I thought, well, that's strange. You don't normally see the toilet roll, the toilet paper sticking out like that. So I moved away from it, and it went back down. Right? You notice I'm wearing a jumper, and I wasn't wearing a jumper then, but the thing about jumpers is that they're made of wool, and wool gathers static electricity, and the toilet seat is plastic. So you might pick up static electricity from that, and the paper is very thin and very light, and it could be that it's attracted to you by static electricity. But it did look weird. And I thought, well, wouldn't that be a nice post on Facebook and say, look what you can do with the toilet paper. So this morning I decided I'll take my phone in with me and I'll film it. But nothing happened. And I'm wearing this wool, right? Now, if it's static electricity, why didn't it happen the second time? Things like that, right? They interest me because I want to know why. I understand static electricity. You can pick up little bit. Try this. Get a piece of paper, ordinary paper, newspaper, tissue paper, any kind of paper, and tear it up into little bits, tiny little bits, and put it somewhere on a table or wherever. Then get something plastic and rub it with something wool, like your jumper or a cardigan or something. Rub it. And then put it near the paper, and you see the paper react. If some of it will fly up and stick to the plastic, some of it will literally stand up on its edge, right? Now that's static electricity, and that's normal, and we can explain it. It's not anything paranormal, and it could be that the toilet paper was reacting through static electricity. But the point is, what would be a mystery would be if you got your little bits of paper and your plastic, and you charged it by rubbing it on something that was woolen or cotton, and the paper was attracted one time, but you tried it another time and it didn't. Now that is the kind of mystery that I would be interested in, because I would be asking myself a question. If it worked once, why didn't it work the second time? Under the same scientific conditions. And that, it's not the paper being attracted to the plastic. That's the mystery. It's the not being attracted. That's the mystery, right? So when this didn't happen a second time, I tried it a couple of times, it didn't work. And there's no fan and no window in the toilet. So it's not wind. It's not wind. And that's something that I can't explain. But the fact is this, right, that if that was paranormal, if the disappearing keys and the disappearing mobile phone, which magically reappeared at the toilet roll, if these were paranormal things, then that suggests that Marthe is here. But if Marthe is here, then why doesn't the K2 meter pick her up? Because it did pick up spiritual activity on every occasion that I investigated. The meter would go crazy. Now, I always keep the meter by my bed, and I've not had a reading in the bedroom, but I will show you. This is the K2 meter, and you switch it on by pressing here, and it does a kind of a self-test. All the lights will light up, and then they will go back down, and then it will start detecting. And if there's anything that's near you, it would respond. So if I switch it on, you can see the test, and it's on green. Right now, it's not picking up radiation from the mobile phone, which I'm recording this video on. So it's not very sensitive. In fact, the meter is calibrated to a certain radio frequency. And these are not the radio frequencies that you would get from a mobile phone or a mobile network tower or from your Wi-Fi, or these kind of radio frequencies. The meter doesn't pick those up. So it's not that you're picking up Radio 4 or something. This meter is calibrated at a particularly low frequency, which is a frequency where spirits tend to give a reading. Let's switch it off. Now remember, you don't hear something and believe it. You have to. I have a great respect for skeptics. I have a great respect. We should all be skeptics, and we should check the facts for ourselves and not just believe what people say. And I respect skeptics. If anybody out there is a skeptic, I respect you, and I believe that what you're doing is correct, and that we should all check for ourselves what people are saying. If somebody told me, then I wouldn't automatically believe it. I would check it for myself. I've added that information. What else have I got to say? Well, yes, I mentioned in the video that this is a story of love. Now, I really feel this right through my mind and my body. This is about love. Marthe is not an angry spirit that's come to hurt anybody. Everything that she's done out of love. Love for her parents. Love doesn't die, it continues after death. We don't suddenly stop loving people because they're dead. And sometimes that love is strong enough to bring them back. Something went wrong in her reincarnation. We're all reincarnated. In fact, none of us die. It's just the body that dies. The soul or the spirit that's inside us occupies the body. And these spirits are the same as us, only they don't have a body. And they don't have to eat, and they don't have to look after, anybody. And, they don't feel pain. What they live on is the emotion. They still have the memories, they still have, they're conscious, right? But they don't behave in the way that we do. They are driven by, we're driven by the fact that we have a body. We're driven by hunger. We're driven by the fact that we need to work to earn a living, that we feel cold, and we need heating, and we have totally different concerns. They don't have those concerns, so the way that they think, we can't understand it. We can't relate to it. We can't see or feel the way that they do. So to us, they seem to be strange. I mean, they do something like the disappearing keys on the mobile phone. No person would do that unless they were a real prankster. But to the spirit, it's a way of saying, look, I'm here. Or I want you to think about me. Or I want to tell you something. If you look at it that way, it kind of makes sense. That if you loved somebody and they were far away, you would want to communicate with them. And if you couldn't, you would look for a way that you could. Let's say you can't speak to them, or they can't hear you, or they can't see you, but you're there. Well, what are you going to do? Right? If you were a spirit and you've got this person that you love very much and you want them to know that you're there, well, you're going to start making noises, moving things, and say, look, I'm here. And we might call it a prank, that she's doing it for a laugh, but no, perhaps the purpose was to say to me, look, I'm here and I want to talk to you, but you've told me not to talk. Because I did. 3 years ago, I said, go away and don't talk to me, because I was scared. There was always this doubt in my mind. What if this isn't Marthe? What if this is something else that's impersonating Marthe and means me harm? So I'm not 100% convinced that that's the case. If somebody says to me, this spirit, is it Marthe? I have to say, well, I feel that it is. I think that it is. But if you're asking me if I'm 100% sure, I'm not. I've lost my train of thought again. I apologize for that. Oh, yes. Some people may think, Roger Singh didn't make any money on the first book. Right. In fact, it wasn't the first book. I'd written an autobiography of my life, and I didn't make any profit on that either. All the profits went to a hospital. My baby daughter was born severely disabled. She was blind. She couldn't sit up, couldn't speak, had problems breathing. I loved her very much, and she got ill. She wasn't expected to survive. I sat with her and went through this horrible, horrible time, just basically waiting for her to die. And the book was called Love Always Wins. Very emotionally written. And I can't read it. So the money that the book made, I didn't want it. So I donated it to the hospital, to the pediatric intensive care unit that looked after her, to make a room where the parents could spend the night to be with their children. Writing books, trust me, it's not about money. And these books that are being republished are not being published because I want to profit on them. They're being published for two reasons. And the first one is that everybody needs to know about Marthe and the fact that dead people can still love you. And the second reason was to leave a permanent record. As far as the money is concerned, when I published the books, they're published through Amazon. Sorry. They're published through Amazon, and they insisted I charge. If I could, I would have sold the books for free, because the whole idea is for Marthe to become known, and I know that she wants you to know about her. She was lost in oblivion, gone, and she didn't like that. She wanted to be known. She wanted to be famous, and I think the better that she's known, the more well known that she is, the more happy and satisfied she will be. That we haven't forgotten her. She's a national hero in Belgium. In fact, their tourist information site has got Marthe's story on it. They regard her as being very important. But Amazon said that I had to charge for the books, and they recommended a price. And they said, well, you've got to charge a minimum of this and a maximum of that. Now, the maximum was $250. Now, $250 is a lot of money to pay for a book. I wouldn't pay that kind of money, And so what I did was I chose the minimum that I could charge. And I think it was £7 something for the Kindle, £11 something for the paperback, and £41 for the hardcover book. Now, most of that, 99, maybe not 99, but about 90% or more is to cover the printing cost. So the actual amount of money that I will make will be quite small. And so this is not being done to make money. It's being done for a higher purpose than that. First of all, to let you know that the paranormal is real. And secondly, to spread Marthe's story. That seems to be important to her. That's good enough for me, I'm not 100% sure that I was her dad, but there's a good chance and some very convincing evidence that I was. And if I was, well, I'm doing it for my daughter. And like all fathers would, like any of you dads out there, you know how much you love your child. And you can only imagine how much your child loves you. And Marthe did love me a lot, and she loved her mother a lot, and she loved her sister a lot. And that love never died. I was saying about reincarnation, and I lost my train of thought. Well, when we die, we go to this place called the Void. We're alone there. There's nothing else there. It's a very desolate, very bleak, like a never-ending wilderness, and it's dark and it's frightening. And in this void, there's a fence with a gate, and it's not an elaborate gate. It's just a simple, plain, ordinary. Looks like a garden gate, made of metal, wrought iron, and it's kind of arched at the top. A small gate. It's not huge. It's not like you would imagine heaven to be. It's very plain, right? And I've seen it. She's shown it to me. Now, you go through this gate, because on the other side of the gate, a light shines down, a beam of light. And the light is the same color as your essence, as your spiritual essence. Now, apparently, our spirits, or the life force, the energy that's in us, is of different colors. Some have blue, some have purple, some have white, some have, all different colors. And apparently mine is blue, because I saw it. And Mart's is blue. And the light that would come for her would be blue. So the light is the same, virtually the same thing as the spirit is made of. And that's what attracts the spirit, because the spirit needs energy in order to move around and be active. If a spirit doesn't have energy, it goes into a kind of a hibernation. It doesn't die. It kind of goes to sleep, and it could do that for hundreds of years and suddenly wake up because a source of energy has come along. Now, Marthe was getting all her energy from me because there was no light that appeared for her. She didn't go through the gate. So she needed an energy, and there's her dad. And obviously, because she's from her spirit came from my spirit, she's got exactly the same energy need as the energy that I had. And I didn't know this, and I woke up, for months, feeling really, really tired. I mean, good night's sleep. You wake up in the morning, you can hardly get out of bed. What the hell's going on? It was the fact that she was zapping and sucking all my energy and living off of it. Right. So she didn't go through the gate because the light didn't come for her. Right. But let's say it's you or me, and we go through the gate. Now, once we go through the gate, we can't come back out. There's no way out. Once you're in the gate, and there's like a lawn there, and it's dark and it's night, and the light comes, and your spirit goes to the light and dissolves in it. Like pouring orange juice into more orange juice. You become a part of the light, and then the light goes up and goes away. And Marthe said that whoever is taken by the light never comes back. So presumably, when the light takes the soul away, the soul is then reborn. And if the light doesn't come for you, you're stuck in the void. And that's what happened to her. I don't know why people I've spoken to have had theories, and some of them, we don't know the truth, but what they've said is that if you are left behind and you don't reincarnate, that's how you become a spirit, a ghost. You're wandering around without a body. And you can either stay in the void, or something which is much more interesting, you come back to this reality and try to interact with people. At any given time, you could have as many as 12 spirits wandering around your house, not just one. Most people associate a haunting with a one spirit, but we can't see them. And usually, there are loads and loads of spirits wandering around. And sometimes you can see them as a little orb that moves around, And I had a study of these orbs because I saw them when I was living in Ramsgate in the UK, because I had closed-circuit cameras fitted inside, and I could see, these things flying around, right? So I thought, well, they're dust particles or insects that are attracted by the infrared from the cameras, the infrared LEDs, right? So I bought a very large industrial size dust extractor, and I'd set it running day and night. And that thing would pick out any dust particles. So basically it's an air scrubber. It cleans the air, and it cleans it to a standard of a clean room. Right now, most of us haven't worked in a clean zone area, but a clean zone is somewhere where there's not even a little bit of dust. Operating theatres tend to be very clean because the air is scrubbed. Places where they make electronics, where they make microchips and things, they have to be absolutely free of dust. And these air cleaners, right, are designed to clean the air to that kind of quality. I also bought an electronic pest killer. Now you can see one here, right? And you can see that there are quite a few dead insects on there. Some of them are tiny. And the UV tubes in those things attract any insect because to them it appears as a bright light. They're attracted to it, they hit the metal grid, and they're electrocuted. There's something like 50,000 volts in that thing, and I know I've had a shock. I've had a shock off of it cleaning it. It almost knocked me unconscious. For a few minutes, I didn't know what was going on, but I was stupidly. I'd unplugged it, and it was off. But of course, there must be some pretty high capacity capacitors inside, to generate the high voltage. And the capacitors probably didn't have time to discharge. When I cleaned the metal grid, I discharged the capacitors through my hand, and it was such a horrible jolt that, as I said, it nearly rendered me unconscious. For a moment, I couldn't think. And lucky, basically, that it didn't stop my heart beating, because the high voltage can do that. But I had one of those running in the room, so it would take out the insects and take out all the dust, and the orbs were still there, still flying around. And I didn't know what orbs were until somebody saw one of my videos on my phone, a friend, and he said, "They're orbs." And I said, "What's an orb?" "Oh, and then he told me they're supposed to be this, spirits of dead people and whatnot. And I didn't know what to believe, So that was why Marthe became a spirit. She wasn't reincarnated. And once again, she told me that the light didn't come for her, but that's all she told me. She didn't say why. But people I've spoken to who seem to know a little bit about this have suggested that she was young when she died. She died suddenly, wasn't expected to die. She didn't know that she was dead. And all these little facts might have interfered with this light process where the light comes, and somehow the reincarnation mechanism didn't work for her, and she was stuck here. She said in one dream that she will be waiting at that gate. Right. Now, she only said she'd wait for me, but I'm assuming that it's not just me that she will be waiting for the gate, that she would also be waiting for her mother, because she said that she wanted to go into the light together. Now, might sound very romantic and wonderful. Oh, we're going to go into oblivion together, But I think there might be a practical reason for that, and that is that because the light didn't come from Marthe, and because her light is at the same frequency as my light, that when the light comes for me, she would then also be absorbed and be reincarnated. Now that, to me, as odd as it sounds, seems to make some kind of of sense, to give some idea of purpose behind the way that she talked. Well, this video has gone on for a lot longer than I wanted. I'm sorry for that. I hope I didn't ramble, and I hope that I presented all the facts that and that they meant something. So if it's possible, I'd like to make a request that you open your heart to anyone that you've lost, that you realize in your mind that there are perhaps spirits out there that still have love for you when you were in a previous life. And if it happened to me, it could happen to you, it could happen to anyone. It's not been a bad experience. It's been an expensive one. But the main story is that love is universal. And we are a part of the universe. We're not set apart from it. We are a part of this living planet, of the cosmos. We are a part, the universe is within us. We are a part of it. We're a natural phenomena, and we're a lot bigger than we give ourselves credit for. When we look at a star, we are a part of that star, because the atoms that we are made of, they were created in those stars. So what was that saying, that we are stardust? We literally are. So the fact that we're conscious and we can think doesn't change the fact that all creation is one thing, and we are a part of that thing, not separate from it. So you really are a lot more than you think. And with that thought, I'd like to wish you goodbye. If this is my last video, I hope that you've found what I've said helpful, interesting, and enlightening. If you'd like to leave comments, please feel free to do so. And any of you out there who have had anything similar happen to them, please let me know. I don't want to be the only one. Thank you. Bye.